Are you serious? Are you serious? Okay, guys, we reported yesterday, of course, that Angela Merkel was in Israel the first time in 12 years, and nobody knew exactly what her visit was for, or what was what was the scope of it. But we have some information now just coming out of Israel. She had a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu today, and that efforts are being made to advance the Israeli-Gaza peace deal. I repeat, Merkel was there on behalf of Germany, and maybe on behalf of part of the European Union, for all I know, to help making efforts. She was there making efforts to advance the Israeli-Gaza peace deal. She did meet with Bedouins out on the West Bank to discuss the settlements and some of the tension over that. And she did go to the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. So those are two things we know she did besides this big meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said today, about an hour or so ago, that Germany is making efforts to advance an Israeli-Gaza deal, though she said she did not wish to elaborate on what those efforts entail. Merkel, who is on a snap visit to Israel, spoke shortly after visiting the Holocaust Museum, and Merkel will later meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and then again with President Rivlin. Almost 80 years ago, in the night of November the 9th, the Jewish people in Germany were faced by hatred and violence of an unexpected scale. It's known as the Night of the Broken Glass. I've talked about this before. Merkel said, but what followed then was the unprecedented crimes of course, the breach of civilization. This is why it is Germany's everlasting responsibility to commemorate this crime, to oppose anti-Semitism, hatred, and violence. And the Chancellor wrote the same words in the visitor's book at the Holocaust Museum. Merkel also placed a wreath in the Hall of Remembrance. Later today, Merkel received an honorary doctorate from the University of Haifa at a special ceremony at the Israeli Museum where she met with students. The museum staged an innovation exhibit that Merkel and Netanyahu are expected to tour together along with business people from both Israel and Germany. After a student asked Merkel if Germany would support a settlement between Israel and Hamas, which would include the Israelis held in Gaza, she replied, when Shalit was imprisoned, we made many efforts. Now we're making efforts that I would rather not elaborate. Merkel denied reports that she conditioned her visit on Israel not demolishing the contested West Bank village of Khan al-Amar. But that's entirely not true, she said. Again and again, it was claimed, they set it as a condition for our visit, but we never discussed this with the government, according to Merkel. The information that claimed we may not come to Israel came from Israel. It is not true. This is an Israeli decision, and our visit has nothing to do with it. Now, you can disagree with the settlements policy, and I definitely have some criticisms on that, since I believe in a two-state solution. So now you're hearing Angela Merkel wants a two-state solution. She said, but we are two democracies. We can exchange opposing views, even here with the Prime Minister. Yet canceling the trip was never an option at any stage. I heard about it before the trip. I thought, thank God, in half an hour we'll be taking off, and then they'll believe us that we're coming. Really, sometimes it's like tilting at windmills. She's saying, dealing with the rumors. But the Chancellor also spoke about the situation in Syria, saying that the conflict between Iran and Israel has become more serious because of Syria. And according to Merkel, that's why it's very good that Russia ensured an Iranian withdrawal from the Israeli border. And regarding Iran nuclear deal, Merkel said the question is whether the agreement with Iran is the right way to prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon, speaking of Iran, or if it's too weak. That's part of our ongoing discussion with Netanyahu. And in the afternoon, Merkel will meet with President Reuven Rivlin and later sit down again with Netanyahu privately, after which the two will hold a press conference. Merkel arrived in Israel last night for a bilateral cabinet talks at discussing economic, security, scientific, cultural cooperation. After her arrival, Netanyahu and his wife had dinner with Merkel at the prime minister's residence in Jerusalem. The visit came amid the imminent demolishing of the West Bank Bedouin village, where despite German calls to block the eviction, this is the 7th time such a meeting has been held between these two governments in the last decade. So Merkel was there to show concern on the settlement situation in the West Bank. She was also there to show respect to the Holocaust that took place in Germany and Germany's everlasting focus to never let that happen again. But she was also there to talk about the peace deal. And she made it very plain in this article that when she spoke before the press there with Netanyahu right there with her at the Holocaust Museum, that she was definitely in favor of a two-state solution. I will read this again. Quote, Merkel said, "You can disagree with the settlements policy, and I definitely have some criticism on that, since I believe in the two-state solution." We'll be back with more current world events and how they relate to biblical prophecy. You say, well, how does this relate to biblical prophecy? Well, look, we're not supposed to divide the land, okay? I mean, God said, don't divide the land. Don't divide the land. That's what God intended, and that was his purpose and plan for giving the nation of Israel a coveted Holy Land area. But there's also a prophecy that can't be ignored. And I've talked to Stephen Ben-Nun about this many times, even on the air, and he agrees with me. You can't ignore the prophecy. Here's what it says. In Genesis chapter 25, look at verse 23. You know that Rebekah couldn't have children. She was barren. Isaac went before the Lord, asking God to open her womb. She went before the Lord. And the Bible says this in verse 22 and verse 21. Okay, this is Genesis 25:21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? If I'm to have this promised child, then why am I struggling with this pregnancy? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they named him Esau. And after that came his brother out. His hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old, 60 years old, when she bare him the sons. 2 boys, 2 nations, 2 manners of people, and the older will serve the younger. The Arabs will serve the Jews. That's the Bible prophecy. So it does say 2 nations and 2 manner of people. Does that mean there will be a 2-state solution? I'll be back with more. And you notice, Germany's there. Everybody. Prince William came. Jared Kushner stays over there. The Saudi crown prince is in on it. King Jordan, King Abdullah of Jordan's in on it. President El-Sisi of Egypt's in on it. The United Nations is in on it. The European Union, is, the President of the United States is certainly involved in it. You see what I'm saying? It's a covenant with many. We're getting close. Give your life to Jesus Christ. We'll talk about it today in our live broadcast. Starts at 12 noon Eastern. It will be live at my website. If you're going to watch this live broadcast, you'll have to go to my website. It will be live at my website and a new live stream. Also, followers of me on Facebook, you can watch it live. And Periscope followers, you can watch it live. Go to my website. Go to my website. Here on YouTube, it will be archived and posted later today. God bless.